and welcome back to another episode of the Small Church Musicians Podcast. My name is Justin, I'm your host, and I'm a small church musician. I'm on a journey to find the best sounding equipment for my budget and to talk about the songs and artists that God has used to make me who I am. This week, we're going to be taking a look at the Jam Pedal's Eureka fuzz pedal. I only found out about this a few weeks ago, and let me tell you, never having owned a fuzz pedal or even used one before, this thing is so much fun. We're going to go over all the specs, the weights, the measures, the price tag, and I'm going to tell you about how I'm using it in worship music. Believe it or not, I'm actually going to use it for the first time ever this coming Sunday, and I'm really pumped to use it. But before all that, I just want to remind each and every one of you that if at any point you enjoy anything that I talk about or discuss in this episode, to hit that follow button on Spotify and leave us a review. It really, really does help out the channel, and I'm trying to get the show to 100 followers by the end of June. If we make it there, I have a really special episode planned out that I'd love to make happen, but I can't do it without your help. My prayer is that God would make this show a resource for worship leaders everywhere, but especially for those of us who lead worship in smaller church-based settings. So with all that said, everybody, let's get started. So let's start at the very beginning. What is a fuzz pedal? Well, for those that don't know, fuzz is a subtype of distortion, the others being distortion itself and overdrive. The various forms of distortion give your guitar signal breakup, or to put it in a different way, it distorts your original signal. I don't want to get into all the specifics of what make distortion and overdrive what they are, but rather we're just going to focus on fuzz. A fuzz pedal heavily distorts the guitar's original signal, creating a tone characterized by its sustain, compression, and harmonic richness, whereas overdrive and distortion gradually distort the signal. There's a better way to put it, and I've heard it described as clipping. Fuzz heavily clips your signal, whereas overdrive and distortion do it a little bit more gradually, and overdrive is the most subtle out of the three. I think the best way I've heard fuzz described is that it gives you a more explosive sound. You'll see fuzz pedals throughout music history since its creation in the 1960s, with so many historically important artists and musicians using them to incredible effect, if you'll pardon the pun. Some of those names include Pink Floyd, the Rolling Stones, and Jimi Hendrix, so it really is a who's who in the world of secular music, and not as much in the world of worship music, but there are artists such as Third Day and Stellar Card who have used them to great effect over the years. So this brings me to the question, why don't we use fuzz in the world of worship music like the world of secular music does? Even though bands like Third Day and Stellar Card have used it so much over the years, I think it's because of how much distortion you're getting out of a fuzz pedal. Typically in the world of worship music, you want some drive, you want your signal to have a little bit of dirt, as we call it, on it, but fuzz adds so much, it's ridiculous. It can be incredibly fun, and it allows for some real creativity, but I think in a church setting, it might distract a bit from the overall experience of worship. You don't want the focus to be on you. You want your focus to be on God. That's not to say there isn't a right way to do it. And I'm excited to showcase how I'm using my new fuzz pedal this week. So let's talk about the Eureka fuzz itself before we get to a playing samples. You can really hear what this pedal can do. The Eureka measures 4.3 inches by 2.7 inches by 1.8 inches, and it weighs 0.5 pounds. So it's really small and very, very light. It's a single footprint size pedal, meaning that it won't take up a whole lot of room on your pedal board, and it's not as small as a micro pedal. It's about the size of a standard Boss Stomp Box style effect pedal. Moving on to the controls, the Eureka has 3 control knobs, one for the overall level, one for the gain, and one for the tone. It also features one mini toggle switch which selects between 3 different levels of bass boost. In the middle position, the bass boost is disengaged, and I don't use the bass boost myself, but it's a nice feature to have. If you flip the switch over to the exclamation point, the pedal adds 1 level of bass boost, and then the lightning bolt, which is on the right-hand side, adds 2 levels of bass boost. So you might be asking, what are the advantages of having a bass boost on a fuzz pedal? Isn't it just going to add more distortion? And in a way it does, but it also doesn't at the same time. It allows you to add in more low-end bass to your signal, and it's especially fun with single-coil pickup guitars and that style of instrument. This pedal has 1 input and 1 output jack on either side of the pedal, so no stereo in or out, and the jacks are not top-mounted for those that are curious. It's also powered by either one 9-volt battery or a standard 9-volt power supply, which is how I'm running it for this review and discussion. Let's move on to the price tag. The pedal is handmade in Greece and features some amazing artwork, as do all of Jam Pedal's various effects. and the price tag is about $229 US, which is a great price for what this is. Also, for some reason, it comes with a rubber ducky inside the pedal, and it's hysterical. It's a little bit of whimsy that comes with this pedal, and my favorite thing is that the LED activation light is the little rubber duck on the artwork's eye, and it makes me smile every time I see it, and it brings me so much joy. There's also, like I said, there's a little rubber ducky inside the pedal. I haven't removed mine because I think he's lucky, but that's not contributing to the sound of this pedal. It's just a nice little feature. They didn't have to do that. I also like to point out that they send a lot of really great mini accessories with this pedal. They send the company logo on a sticker. They send the little feet for the pedal, and a lot of stuff they didn't have to include, but I'm really glad that they did. So Jam's going the extra mile, and I'm happy to shop with Jam pedals again. I'm looking at a couple other pedals from them I'm going to experiment with here on the show at some point. So yeah, this pedal has a lot of great features, and you're getting a really decent effect for your money, and I think it's worth checking out. So why are we talking about this specific pedal? I mean, why are we talking about fuzz in particular? Well, I recently read a subreddit discussion about how some people in the world of worship music are feeling like we have to get, and this is entirely in quotation marks, permission to deviate from the established sound that you can expect in worship music. And I don't think that's true at all, even though there is, I guess you could say, a status quo of what to expect in the world of worship music. It's like if you want to get creative and you want to experiment, other people might look down on you for wanting to go outside the box, and that's not the case at all. I've brought this up a lot on the show, and I'm a very firm believer in creating your own sound as a worship musician. You want to use what you know and what you can expect, but don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to change things up a little bit sound-wise and create your own take on something. Like I said, I'm using this for the first time ever this week for our Sunday morning worship set, and I'm using it to thicken up my lead tone when the need is there. Let's talk a little bit about how I'm using this pedal by itself. Let me tell you, this pedal gets so distorted, it's ridiculous. I actually set the gain at about 7 o'clock, or about a 2 on a scale of 1 to 10, and it's still super, super heavy. But here's the thing. I love it so much. I'm using it to thicken up my tone, like I said, and I can really see a use for it on southern or rock-style songs that have a certain level of fuzziness to them that you can't get out of just a normal overdrive. But let me stress this, and I cannot tell you this enough. I cannot stress this enough. Be very, very careful with your settings. A very little change goes a very long way. So let's take a quick listen to this pedal, and I want to show you a trick I learned when messing around with this pedal for the purposes of this review and demo. I'm using my PRS Starla for the electric guitar signal, and I'm using my Martin acoustic for the acoustic side. I'm also using my Universal Audio Dream 65 reverb for my amplifier. So take a listen, because this thing sounds awesome. Woohoo! That's spicy. It sounds so incredibly distorted, but yet there's almost like a clarity underneath it all, like a compressed clarity, I think is the best way to put it. I don't know if that's the right word. I am using a compression pedal. Maybe that's adding to it. I don't really know. I'm just being honest with you all, but oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. And the heavy distortion's not normally my thing. I'm going to be 100% honest with you all. I'm planning on using this thing a lot in the coming months. Like I've been saying throughout this discussion, I'm planning on using this for the first time ever in church this coming Sunday morning. And in my prep work, I tried using this as a kind of second stage overdrive, and I ran my JHS Morning Glory into it. And Wow, I was so surprised with what I got out of it. Check this out. I have to play you what I've been working on. Oh, man, that sounds so cool. So, what do I think of the Eureka? I'll tell you, I love this thing, and I'm still in the experimenting stages with it, but I love it. If you've been looking for a fuzz pedal of your own, like I was for the longest time, do yourself a favor, take a chance on this one. This thing is so much fun, and the rubber duck paint job makes me smile every time I look at it, and I guarantee it'll make you laugh too. It's such a joyful little thing, and then you turn it on, it's oh my gosh, this thing is so heavy. It sounds so good, and I tend to think of it more of as a higher gain overdrive. It allows for a lot of creativity, like I said, and it offers a lot of unique tones if you play with it enough. I'm using it this coming Sunday in worship, and I think it's a great price for this kind of a pedal, and I'm planning on shopping with Jam Pedals again. They have a great catalog of effects, and I'm looking forward to trying them out for myself. But now let me put this discussion to you all. What do you think about the Jam Pedals Eureka? Have you ever heard of them before? Have you ever experienced the Eureka before? Do you use fuzz in the world of worship? Let me know, because I'd love to hear from you all. But with all that said, that brings us to the end of another episode of the Small Church Musicians Podcast. My prayer is that this episode has been of some help and entertainment to you all, and I hope my enthusiasm is as infectious as I hope it is. My prayer is that God would help this episode become a resource for all worship leaders, but especially to each and every one of my fellow small church-based musicians. You can all help me out by following the show on Spotify, on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and leaving us a review. I'd love to see the show reach 100 listeners by the end of June, and if we do, I have a really special episode planned out that I'd love to make happen, but I can't do it without your help, and I really want to make it happen. And whatever God has planned, I'm willing to go with it, but I'd love to see it happen. As always, friends, remember, even though we're all called to work within a unique and individual set of circumstances, God has called each and every one of us to leading his people in worship, and that's an awesome and humbling responsibility. We all need to know that even though there are times that are going to be difficult, and there'll be plenty of difficult times throughout your career as a worship leader, you need to know that you're not alone on this path. You have friends, you have allies, and you have resources on this road that you've been called to walk. As always, I've been Justin, and I'm a small church musician. I'm on a journey to find the best sounding gear for my budget and talk about the songs that God has used to make me who I am, and I'll see you next time. Have a great week.